Kampi, the taxi driver, has seen better days. His 15 clients want him to speed up, whereas the 16th passenger continues to express discontent by mooing constantly. His worn-out Jeep struggles to run on the 90-kilometre track leading to the village. Kampi has no other choice. He must get through, no matter what it takes. The funeral service will not start without his passengers. In Burma, solidarity remains a cornerstone for families going through tough times. With a little perseverance, the journey reaches its end after 3 hours of travelling. The passengers and the bullock can finally stretch their legs, although for this animal, the end of the journey truly marks the end of the line. The Jeep will also serve as a hearse, although for the driver, not everything will go to plan. In Burma, trouble is never far away. For more than half a century, this country has lived in isolation, cut off from the outside world by a succession of some of the harshest dictatorships on the planet. The Burmese consider their country to be the sleeping beauty of the world. Although she has finally begun to open her eyes, today she faces a rude awakening. The country is lacking in everything. Its infrastructures have been abandoned for several years, but in spite of these hardships, the Burmese keep on smiling. Why would they complain now when many of them have experienced forced labour in the past? The junta ran the country according to its own benefit, taking all the wealth and building an immense capital city, twice the size of New York. However, barely anyone lives there now, and the highways leading to the capital are some of the emptiest in the world. There are countless tracks, and they are a nightmare for the Burmese to deal with. Burma perhaps also holds another record. It is home to the most terrifying train in all of Asia. After years of suffering, the Burmese can now face death with a smile. For the Burmese drivers, monsoon season is associated with countless problems. Lorries and taxis move in a long procession, bound together by pitfalls that literally nail them to the ground. During this season, several transporters refuse to drive on this road. Only the bravest, or rather the most reckless drivers, dare to take on the mountain. Mr. Kosam is one such driver. However, he doesn't really have a choice in the matter. If he doesn't drive, he cannot earn any money. For a while, he tried to find a driver to replace him, hoping to take a much-needed break, but any potential candidate ran away at the sight of his truck. In fact, this truck shouldn't actually exist. Mr. Kosam is the Dr. Frankenstein of mechanics. He brought this metal creature to life with his bare hands. Although she runs, she's far from perfect. This beast quickly runs out of steam and has to stop every half an hour. Heated brakes can lead straight to a fall into the ravine, so Kosam has invented a sort of liquid cooling mechanism.
The Asenja Tapu Rekajan, the Gong, Puen Biloshin, the Maji Twella. As you tell a black Habram the Mapudo, Habram the Edward of Belega Milo Gondoro.
His truck is an enormous machine, assembled using the parts of several different vehicles.
The Gongjaro to Ojin Gombe, Shijo di Jaro, GMC Jobe. Viro engine jaro ati late harabo no. The engine jaro ati late hare to tong sen jaro to ojine engine manayu. Tire kha jaro manaido engine chi late hare. Viro langkui de kha ja to ojine jaro juju be suro di steering on power steering kat hare. Ko mya den chin de kha jaro lithowa manaido di litho di late hare. Di litho di jaro achi ne late hare. Di achi ri ne late ha viro. Viro tong sen jaro bleka man kongu. To original jaro sapuli ne ve suro di gong dia piang u ne nai do ong bo no. Di gong di ne piang u di ne nemba di ne le tha de di gong di ne le tha de pi ro.
Mr. Kosam sets off to deliver rice to the Indian border, less than 60 kilometers away. In this humid season, this journey is far from easy, especially given his vehicle.
Legend that make what Yajine Belaculo Miao, Yajine Vesenia Rora, no. We are sending Jaro, Belegaro, attain the walk, ya number 1, number 2, Eline, Ali same, you know. I think Moyado.
The brakes start to heat up, so Mr. Kosam activates his homemade liquid cooling device.
Javima. Later day. Go up a bow in it, as on the Gajaro Lake. Hello, the painting Malayan. Yahoo. You know, something to song here. And out. Ta lit the painting there. Go at that song the Gajan. တားမာတော့တာလေနောက်ဝေးတွေများလွန်းတော့ရှုပ်ဖြီးတော့တာလေလမ်းကလည်းဆောင်းနေတာဆိုတော့အဲ့ဒါနဲ့မရနိုင်တော့တာ
After 6 long hours on the road, only 20 kilometres has been covered. Even the mules are moving faster than this. Although this part of the track is new, the drivers have nicknamed it the Passage from Hell. These 3 kilometres alone have already seen dozens of accidents.
Di ni ama le toa da le di lu di na li ya di ya ta song do le jong ye ne di kong di na ma le toa da ni ma sa ne mi ma toa yin toa bi ma jai khwat di phit kong do ဆွေးရင်လည်းဟုတ်တယ်။မိုးရွာတာတွေဆိုဆွေးနေတာပေါ့။လမ်းကြီးချော်တော့ကိုသွားချင်တယ်သွားလမ်းကတိုက်ရမသွားတော့ဘူး။ဟိုဘက်ကြိုင်လိုက်ဒီဘက်ကြိုင်လိုက်အဲ့ဟိုဖြစ်သွားတာ။
Mr. Kosam travels with a handyman who jumps into the mud for him. His assistant doesn't quite seem to be in the mood to laugh. Mr. Kosam's good mood fades quickly with the arrival of the fog. After 8 hours of exhausting driving, his smile has gone. He is stressed and apprehensive. Between his fatigue and the severe lack of visibility, it would be crazy to continue the journey. Kosam decides to spend the night in this tavern. Tomorrow, with 30 kilometres still to go, he has to complete the other half of his journey. Unfortunately, in Burma, the travel time is always tripled. In the mountains, All of the villagers in Molamin are doing their best to help this family. The grandmother has just arrived to spend time with her ancestors. The meat from this bullock will be eaten at the funeral meal. The dish will be accompanied with corn, and Campy's family is in charge of cooking it. The young driver could really do without this particular chore because his back is already aching after having spent 3 hours behind the wheel of his old Jeep. Its shock absorbers are as hard as wood. In the next room, the villagers have been gathering around the elderly woman's body for 3 days. This act is not linked to her status. She was neither wealthy nor particularly noteworthy. Tradition states that the vigil serves to appease the spirit of the deceased before their journey to the afterlife. Campy's truck will serve as the hearse for the grandmother's final journey. However, this trip will prove much more complicated for the young driver than first planned. "90% of the Burmese are Buddhists. Only 1% of the population is Christian, like in this village. The graveyard is only 800 meters away, but unfortunately it is at the bottom of a hill. The heavens have another plan for Campy. While the elderly woman reaches her final resting place, this young man is wondering if he'll ever be able to get back out of here. One deflated, the tyres sink down and the tread's width increases by a few centimetres, just enough for the truck to grip the track a little more. Unfortunately, Campy now has another problem.
Forward on pit one, I don't forward to it. Young Yam. Majida, Malamia, Dali,
Evidently, in Burma, laughing seems to be the cure for any problem. However, a helping hand goes a long way. An hour later, and a friend comes to the rescue.
အနေအမြတ်တွေဆိုတော့သူတို့ကျွန်တော်ကားမစွန်းနိုင်ဘူးဆိုတော့သူတို့ဒီတင်စီတွေပါလို့ခွေးသွားမှာပေါ့အဲ့လိုမျိုးအနေရှိတယ်
They've now been struggling for 2 hours. Campy realises that he should have thought about bringing chains earlier.
တငါဟန်ကြတော့အေးချမ်ပန်ပေါ်ဝတောင်းတဲ့တူတူပေါ့အဆုံးသေးပေါ့အစောကလာမတော့ရုံးရင်လည်းမရဘူးဆိုရင်ဒါလည်းချင်းလို့
The vehicle is no longer sliding around. It's digging holes instead. And to make matters worse, now the chains have broken. But once again, no one loses hope.
ဘယ်လောက်ခက်စိတ်ချင်းထားသူတို့မရရအောင်သူတို့ကူငင်ပါအဲ့ဒါကျွန်တော်စိတ်ထဲမှာရှိလို့ကြီးတာပေါ့အေးကျွန်မတော့တော့ခက်တကယ်ချင်းမရှိဘူးဆိုကြီးတော့ကြီးမှာမဟုတ်ဘူးเนาะဟုတ်လားလုံဆုံးတာပေါ့စိတ်ချမ်းအောင်လုပ်ရင်ပျော်တော့ဆဲလက်ဆင်းတာပေါ့အဲ့လိုမျိုးပေါ့ မရရအောင်လုပ်မှာရတဲ့အထိလုပ်မှာဘာဖြစ်လို့ဆိုတော့ဘူးမထုတ်ချင်ဘူး
It is already 11 p.m. A few other villagers have come to help out, in vain. And if that wasn't enough, these men are starting to struggle almost as much as the worn-out jeep. They've been slaving away for 8 hours. Finally, some of their prayers are answered. Just before midnight, the family of the deceased woman arrive with some reinforcements.
မိုက်ဆာမလည်းဆိုတယ်ကြီးရိုးလည်းပြင်တယ်အခုဒီထမင်းလည်းမစားသေးဘူးဆိုတော့နော်တနာလေးကြီးရိုးလည်းပြင်တယ်
Re-energized at almost 1 o'clock in the morning, or rather 10 hours later, their salvation finally arrives. The Burmese have learnt the importance of never giving up. To understand where this determination comes from, we must delve deeper into the country's history. The Burmese were subjected to forced labour, a regime imposed by the different military dictatorships that used to rule the country. For nearly 60 years, Burma was completely isolated from the rest of the world, which hindered and impeded its development. There was a complete lack of supplies, electricity, drinking water, and infrastructure. In spite of this, the country abounds in wealth. Deep in the land's subsoils, oil, gas, and even precious gems such as rubies and sapphire can be found. Since 2011, it seems as though a new page has turned for the country. The junta has eased off, the country's doors have finally opened, and the economy is slowly improving. The Burmese hope to finally be free of life's hardships. Since these times of terror, Sin Tin no longer fears death.
Soran Biolo or Kailusi, a Chidu Duma, do a devil and a binane. Do I say a bienzo?
Sin Tin has been a snake charmer for 30 years.
No king of the man ever magala, a CPC, Matodim. Now, listen, Mukaika, a Jane, a city she got. Now, listen, Eriba Kaika, Muhokai.
The charmer believes that he's been spared thanks to the seemingly magical tattoos that adorn his body. The shaman who designed them supposedly blended medicinal herbs and the venom of different snakes with the tattooing. After half an hour of invocations, the cobra is ready for the kiss of death. However, this time, it's not the snake who will bestow the kiss, but rather this young woman. Sokna and the snake charmer put on the performance together, but it is not without risk. When he isn't practicing his talent at Yangon Zoo, Sin Tin earns a bit of extra money by performing in the rural villages where these beliefs are still firmly rooted. For some, the cobra is a valuable animal. It allegedly protected Buddha from the sun. For others, it represents an evil god who destroys harvests and makes women sterile. Legend states that only the purest of girls can break this curse by kissing its head 3 times in a row. Sokna represents one of these pure women. As she dances, her movements gradually hypnotize the snake. To avoid being bitten, she must respect 2 very important rules: never stop dancing and avoid any sudden movements.
Yan say to the Kajaro, Ma Alumbono, a me go such a me diga payao, payao, as a dema, she called it those or so a me in a pin.
The snake is agitated, so Sin Tin asks his assistant to try to calm it down by giving it a freshwater bath. The danger is all too real. Sin Tin does not cheat. His snake still has all its fangs and is full of venom. Although it is merely a spectacle, the inhabitants hope that, thanks to the kiss of death, the birth rate will significantly increase in the village this year. At dawn, the fog drifts over the mountain tops. Mr. Kosam has not slept well. The stress must be getting to him. The previous day it took him 10 hours to travel 30 kilometres, and he still has to cover the same amount of ground today to get to the Indian border. To make things worse, all of the drivers he encounters tell him the same story.
စားပဲရှိသေးတာပေါ့နော်နောက်လမ်းတွေပြိုးမယ်ကလေးမျိုးနဲ့တည်ရင်ကြတော့မှပြောလို့မရဘူးလမ်းတွေက
It's not long before the difficulties begin. The water holes follow one after the other. Without his assistant, the journey would be impossible. For less than €10 per trip with food and shelter, the young man helps him to make up for lost time. Without him, Mr. Kosam would not be able to handle all of his delivery jobs.
ဒီအလုပ်ကိုလုပ်နေတာကြိုက်တယ်လားဆိုတော့ကိုကဒီကမကြိုက်ရင်လည်းတခြားလုပ်မှမရှိတာအဲ့ဒါမကြိုက်ရင်လည်းလုပ်ရတာပေါ့နော်တချို့ကမိုးတွင်းဆိုရင်တော့ပင်ပန်းတယ်ခက်ခဲတယ်ဆိုပြီးမှတချို့ကတော့မလုပ်ကြပါဘူးကိုကတော့မလုပ်မှဖြစ်ပေါ့မိသားစုကတွတ်တည်းရဲ့လို့ရတာကြောင်းတက်တာပိုက်ဆံလူတာရဲ့ပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒါခက်ခဲတွေရှိတဲ့ခါကျတော့မလုပ်မဖြစ်ပြန်ဘူးကိုကတဘောအုံနာတွေကမသွားနဲ့ဆိုရင်လည်းကိုကဖြစ်နိုင်တော့သွားချင်တာပေါ့အဲ့လိုလုပ်တာဖြစ်တာပေါ့နော်ဒီအလုပ်ကိုလုပ်နေတာဆိုတော့ကိုကအရာကျွန်တော်ဖေကလည်းကားမုန်းတာဆိုတော့ကိုကအတွေးသားမှာပါတာလားမသိဘူးအဲ့ဒါကားကိုပဲစိတ်ဝင်စားတာပေါ့နော်စိတ်ဝင်စားတော့
Gradually, this part of the road becomes submerged in water. Under the weight of the truck, the verge could collapse.
Chào đà rồi. Đi lù miêu rồi, phim mà rồi mà thèm mua bao nào, phim toàn là trộn cái này xuống rồi, ta đi mấy đâu phim này đâu là bao nào, hiện đi tông nữa rồi, đủ đi ba đi tông chắc là bao nào, lấy đi ba đi tông đi đâu, lù miêu. Đi này về. Thôi. Wow. Trying kadama hubet khana toani la era jam khana song ông mày.
This is not the trap that he was expecting, so now he has no other choice but to wait. After the events following the funeral, Campi is back behind the wheel of his taxi. He's relying on his chains to compensate for his broken 4x4 transmission. These two women are very much aware of the dangers on the track leading into town.
Saya ni ya, si amai si dah ni. Jangan lupa dah tu kawan ni လူနေတော့ပဲကားမောင်းတာပါဒါကိုလည်းသိမပြောတော့ပါဘူးဒီနေ့မှလည်းနောက်တော့အားပေးနေတာပဲစားစားရှိတော့တခြားလို့ရှာရှိတော့လုံးလုံးချင်တာပါအားလုံးအားရှာရတယ်အားကြောင့်တော့
It has to be said that this young man makes quite a decent living for himself. He earns €200 a month, while a civil servant only earns 75. With this salary, he was able to buy himself this Jeep, albeit a vehicle in poor condition that struggles to overcome obstacles. But in spite of everything, all of the villagers are queuing to travel with him. Campi plays an important social role in this part of the mountain. Somehow, the difficult journey comes to an end. The most important thing is that they got there. In the town, there's no shortage of garages. Luckily for Campi, his 4x4 is quite basic, so repairing it is like child's play. The garage is run by young and very bright people. They're like kings. They're between 7 and 12 years old. In 2014, at the time of the last census, Burma was said to have more than 4 million working children. The irony is that since the country opened its doors to foreigners, this figure has been increasing continuously because the new companies are looking for cheap labour. These 5 children were fortunate enough to have been taken in by this monk. Wo Lei helps these disadvantaged young people by giving them shelter in his monastery. He hopes that they will eventually want to continue the vocation, dedicating their lives to helping others. Monks take a vow of poverty and live off the charity of others. Their meal has been provided by this gentleman. Before they met Wo Lei, the children had never left their village and they had almost no hope of ever doing so. Their first train experience is not just on any train, a ride far better than one found in any theme park. It travels on the narrowest and highest viaduct in the country. This structure was built in 1901 and reaches a height of 100 metres. Its construction was the main feat of the time. This is perhaps one of the most terrifying trains on the planet. There is no guardrail, so only a few centimetres separate the wheels from the abyss. Like all Buddhists, monk Wolei believes that there is no such thing as chance. Even if he tries to change their destiny, he believes that the fate of these poor children is deserved. Further on in the mountains, Mr. Kosam is asking himself what he could have done in a past life to deserve such a punishment. Another truck is blocking the way, and its driver is nowhere to be found. His old vehicle cannot turn sharply enough to get past. He only needs 30 centimetres more space, which he hopes to achieve by moving the rear with a jack.
Okay.
With 15 kilometres still to go before he reaches the border, this driver is no longer thinking about the time. His only hope is to arrive before dusk, and even that seems unlikely. Mr. Kosam knows very well that tarmac roads are still a long way away. He has several good years of driving left ahead of him. The country has more important priorities before even considering repairing these forgotten mountain roads. But in spite of this, their deplorable state is paralysing a part of the country's economy. Before turning the vehicle over, the passengers have to unload all of their merchandise.
Dù bà về lấy cho nó biểu bì thì thông sản về mua đôi thông sản tập bao á phít nỉ đó là gì à giờ dù nè đi đấy tua không mà bây giờ chạy lên nên thằngไอ้จวมาลูตัวของมันลูเรียตองยังลูอันนี้ได้ตีเลยน่าสนใจ
lý công ngon thì đâu mà lý ta đi xoay lại chu này tàn nhũ ấy còn lấy là tàn nhũ tay cái ngà các bên mà tà mà tàn nhũ xịt tay tôi chỉ là mấy gì là chỉ là nè bắt lọt thùng lại ấy đâu hi lắmအဲ့လိုပဲပြန်မောင်းသွားတယ်အခုတော့သူကဝိတ်များတဲ့အတွက်တဝက်ချန်ထားခဲ့မယ်ခုဘယ်မှာပြန်ဖြစ်မှာဆိုတော့လေဖြစ်လိုက်ပြန်ထောင်လိုက်ပြန်သွားလိုက်ပဲအဲ့လိုခဏတုံချုပ်ပဲပိတ်တယ်ပြန်ချလူပွဲလူဒီဘက်ကတော့ကားသမားတွေလည်းဝိုင်းဝန်းလုပ်ကြတယ်လေကားသမားနဲ့မလားရွာသားခေါ်တယ်ရွာသားကြီးလာလို့ပေးတယ်
Mr. Kosam sets off, but he's never far away from disaster.
Thế chỉ lại nó đi ngã xe lao rồi nó món qua rồi mà loài lao rồi lao đi rồi mà món này một xa mà món này để lùi xuống yên đâu còn mà xa mà lại đi là bên phát đấy.
Mr. Kosam will arrive just before nightfall after having spent 48 hours on only a 60-kilometre journey. Burma is a developing country. Slowly, democracy is gaining ground. Although nobody has yet dared to criticise the past 50 years of oppression, the junta may have abdicated their power, but they are still ever present in the country's political sphere.